I wanted to bring a small story to this sitting. I think some of you may know this story already. It is buried in the Samyutta Nikaya. It's in the amongst over 100 pieces in the Samyutta Nikaya on the Satipatthanas, and it is a charming little story, quite terse and small, and it's a story about a little girl named Frying Pan. And Frying Pan had it to be saved. Frying Pan underwent an involuntary sex change in the commentarial literature. Frying Pan is probably a girl we would expect about 10 years old, and is the hero of our little story. And some of the commentators felt necessary to remark that although this is a girl's name, really this was probably a boy. Yeah. So she had to undergo some rescue to be reinstated as a girl, and the story goes as follows: where the Buddha gathers some of his monks, and he tells them this story, and he tells them of an acrobat, bamboo acrobat, traditionally a low-caste activity. And his acrobat had an assistant called Meda Katalika, Frying Pan. And his assistant, we have to imagine, it's not quite clearly described, but we have to imagine that bamboo acrobat basically traveled the villages and had a bamboo pole. And I would expect that he placed it either here on his, substernum jugularis, I believe is this point called, or place it on the forehead, and it looks like the girl climbed over his legs and his shoulders onto the pole and climbed up the pole. And I would expect that the name Frying Pan doesn't denote the little girl's kitchen activities nor lack of curvaceousness, but actually what she did on that pole, I would expect that she was probably balancing horizontally. She was planking. That's what I suspect. She was climbing that pole and probably planking, and they did their number, collected some money, and went home. So the Buddha recounts how the acrobat basically, who is not really the acrobat, who is the standing guy, that has to be said, addresses his assistant and says, you look after me, and I look after you. The word is rakati, to protect. I protect you, and you protect me, and together we go about our business safely, and you climb down again, and we collect some money and go on. And now, so far, so good. And now the unexpected twist comes in. The bamboo acrobat's assistant disagrees with her master. She addresses him as master, and she says, no, this won't work that way. You look after yourself, and I look after myself. And together, we conduct our business safely, collect the money, and move on. And then, pause in the narrative frame, the Buddha turns to his monks and says, and in this particular instance, I agree with the girl. Indeed, she was right. It is by protecting yourself first, and then each of you has to protect himself and herself. So he gives her right. And then he repeats that statement and adds, but by protecting yourself, you protect others. And by protecting others, you protect yourself. So first, he assents that the girl, which was quite unexpected to disagree with her master, because that has some implications. Generally disciples don't disagree with their masters, and B, certainly not when they're girls. And C, that makes some statements about the masters. If he doesn't know the very basics of this trade, that doesn't let him stand there in a very sort of experienced light. So this is something unusual there. And the Buddha adds to this, making an emphasis, saying, yes, the girl was right. Yeah. And then he adds a twist. While having given her the correct picture, he then adds, but it is by protecting yourself that you protect others. It is by protecting others that you protect yourself. So, in a way, what was diametrally opposed in the statement of the master, look after the other, and in the statement of the girl, look after yourself, suddenly becomes sort of put together dialectically, sort of woven together, stating that the act of protecting yourself also leads to the protection of the other, and the protection of the other also leads to the protection of yourself. So he takes the contradictive thorn out of these statements, after having first given her right. And then he says, okay, how does one protect others? By protecting oneself. And then he says it is by cultivating, bhavanaya, by following through, asevanaya, and by dedication, by making much of one's practice. Yeah? Remember, these are the satipatthanas. We're speaking here in the context of satipatthana. So, by cultivating the satipatthanas, one protects not just oneself, but also the other. By making much of this practice, by dedication to this practice, and by repeated application. Yeah? So, cultivation, dedication, repeated application are the things that I do to protect myself that also protect you. And then he adds, and how does one protect oneself? By protecting others. And he says, it is by forbearance, kantiya. It is by avihingsaya, by harmlessness. It is by mettataya, by loving kindness, friendliness. And it is by anudataya, by compassion. Yeah, by caring for the other. In this way, monks, takes up the frame again, in this way, monks, one protects oneself by protecting others. Yeah. It's a very neat little story, because in a way it summarizes Buddhist ethics in a nutshell. Yeah? You have looking after yourself, and you have to start with yourself. That's why he assents with the girl who disagrees with her teacher, who says, look after me and I look after you. The girl disagrees with that, and the Buddha gives her right. It says, you have to begin with yourself. But it's not as opposite or as diametrally opposed as it may sound. Namely, because if you look after yourself properly, you also look after others. If you look after others properly, you also look after yourself. How do you do this? Looking after yourself means you practice, you give yourself to it, you make much of this practice. Dedication, application, and doing a lot of it. Looking after others means you practice forbearance, you practice harmlessness, you practice kindness, and you practice compassion. That doesn't just feel good to others, this also cultivates your own heart. Yeah. So you have altruism and individualism there in one little message. For pragmatic reasons, you need to start here. I do not believe that systems make human beings better. A system is not better than its components. I do believe this is true for communities, for social polity. I do believe this is true just on every level. You cannot make the institution better than the individual in that institution. You have to start with the individual. So you have to start with your own heart, with the wars and the conflicts and the contradictions and the oscillations in your own heart. I think that's why he starts. That's why he sides with the girl who says, if we do not manage to look after ourselves, it's probably not so easy to look after others. At the same time, that self-care is not exclusive of caring for others. I think this is a powerful little image. It's to be found in the 47th of the Samyuttas. I can give you the number probably. It's number 19. Yeah, the bamboo acrobats, or actually the title of the sutta is called Sedaka. That's the place where this has happened. Yeah? So consider looking after yourself and looking after those folks around you. Those of you who go home, we let you go. I'm going to ring this bell and then we change posture. Yeah, we don't stop meditating. Retreat doesn't stop. You're just changing posture and having a slight different format of mind. But this continues. Safe trip.